everyone. Today we're working on some peppermint mocha truffles. I actually made the mixture a couple days ago, and here is what I have left of it. So we're going to scoop some of that, and then we're going to turn the rest into truffles that I already have some scooped and ready to go. So let me just finish making my coffee. Pick me up. All right, so let's grab a little sugar. I'm going to line it with a piece of parchment paper. Okay, so for scooping these, we're going to use a small cookie scoop, and we're just going to go in with our mixture. I'm going to get out a little butter knife to help scrape it and make it even. So this is pretty much right out of the fridge. It's a little bit thick, but that's okay. So I like to press it down. Make it pretty much even. It doesn't have to be perfect. We're just going to pop it onto our tray. And then we're just going to do that with all of our mixture. I might not do all of it right this second, just so we're not scooping forever. But we're going to chill these for just a little bit, and then we roll them. I might skip that step though, because I already have the next set completely ready to go for us to dip. So I can also just roll some of these just to show you how I like to do it. Doesn't come out perfectly. Sometimes it wants to stick and be annoying, but this is a peppermint mocha truffle mixture that I made, and this is what we stuffed some of our cookies with on Wednesday during our live, and also in yesterday's video. So it has chocolate cream. I cooked the cream with a little bit of coffee to infuse it, and also some peppermint, a little bit of salt, and that's pretty much it. Hello, thank you for joining. My name is Priscilla. I'm using my brother's account. Hello, Priscilla. Thank you so much for joining. Hello, Timmy. Hello, Queen Machiavelli. I hope I said that right. This looks so delicious. Thank you. How could you go wrong with chocolate and peppermint? Such a classic. What's your guys' favorite holiday flavor? Or holiday flavor combination, I should say. I always love peppermint, but specifically peppermint with like dark chocolate is my personal favorite. You know, white chocolate is really popular to pair it with, but I've always been a dark chocolate kind of gal. The mixture's so thick. And while some of these are still pretty firm, I'm going to roll a few of them just to show you how I like to do it, because we have our other tray ready to go for dipping. I like peppermint. I like peppermint too. Yay, fellow peppermint people. Okay, so I just roll it into a ball. Try to make it as even as possible, but it also, again, does not have to be perfect. And unless we're using like a mold, these are going to be like a little bit more rustic, if you will. And this is a little bit of a shorter live today because we're just doing some quick little truffles, but maybe next week, if you guys want to do some kind of baking or something like that, we could do that for sure. I have peppermint hot chocolate. Oh God, that's the best. Cannot go wrong with peppermint hot chocolate. And like I said, usually like I'll scoop a bunch of them out and then chill it for a little bit and then roll them into the balls. But you could also just do it like this too. And then even chill them and like kind of roll them a little bit more if you don't like the shapes or something. But or something like that. I'm gonna wash my hands now. Covered in chocolate. And you could absolutely just have skip adding the coffee if you're not a coffee person and just do peppermint chocolate truffles. Are also super delicious. I'll scoop a few more before we pop this into the fridge. I'm just kind of pressing some of this excess that I had on the knife down. And the reason I use the cookie scoop is just because I want to try and make them a little bit more even in size and consistent. So it does have a little bit of struggle coming out of the cookie scoop, but I feel like overall it makes it, like I said, more consistent in size and just a little bit easier overall. I don't know what those are, but I think I want. These are peppermint mocha truffles. So if you like peppermint, you like mocha, then you're in the right spot. They want to stick like crazy today. That's okay. Like I said, it is straight from the fridge, and it's easier when it's like I had it in a sheet pan the other day, so it was like easier to scoop and do it. A little bit harder when it's in a container like this, but. I'm gonna scoop just a couple more. Like I said, I'm gonna finish this off a little bit later because we have our other stuff. Oh my god, yeah, I'm gonna scoop. There we go. They want to be stubborn today. And we can get to our dipping and decorating. Like I said, it's like super quick live today just because it's an easy no-bake thing. And I had the mixture already made before. I definitely recommend making your ganache. Usually I try and do, like, you can do it the same day, but I usually try and do it like the day before or something just so it has plenty of time to set. Just so you want to make sure when you make your ganache to put a piece of plastic wrap over the top, or also it'll have like a little film that forms by exposure to the air. So you got to press it right on top. And if you watch the video that the cookies that I made yesterday, the peppermint chocolate chip M&M cookies, you'll see me putting plastic wrap right against the top of it, and that's why. All right, let's just set these to the side and finish them in a bit. And we're going to start melting down our melts here. Here I'm using a combination of some dark chocolate melting wafers and some dark chocolate European coating compounds, which are like a higher quality melting wafer. So we're going to start to melt these down at 30 seconds. And then we mix, and then we're going to melt it down a little bit more. I like to always do short bursts because if you overcook them and you burn them, you got to toss them. Okay, let's get some sprinkles since they're peppermint. Ooh, yes. I have these really pretty glittery sugar sprinkles, and also some like nice dark green. So maybe a combination of those for our peppermint. Just give it a little mix. And then we're going to pop it back in there for probably like 25 seconds. Just reduce it a little bit. Like I said, I'd rather err on the side of caution and take a little bit more time. Because you also don't want to overheat the melts. If you do, it gets a little bit streaky in your final product. So that's another thing to watch out for. That just means that you overheat them. So you want to make sure you mix and stir it around for a bit before you pop it back in the microwave. You definitely want to make sure that you really definitely need to pop it back in there. Because I used to have that issue all the time until actually the creator, like the brands that I get these melts, these particular melts from. I talked to one of the representatives one time and they actually told me that. And I was like, I have done that for years. I didn't know that was a thing. So let's see. I'm going to give this another stir. For anybody that likes to do hot chocolate bombs, the European coating compounds, the ones I mentioned, the dark chocolate ones specifically, are my absolute favorite for making hot chocolate bombs. You can absolutely use tempered chocolate. That is like obviously the best way to go across the board when you're using chocolate anything. But I use chocolate melts because I still have not quite done tempering well. So it just makes life so much easier. And the dark chocolate European coating compounds make such a big difference with the hot chocolate bombs. They are my absolute favorite. The flavor is just amazing. So this is what I mean by mixing for a little while before we pop it back in the microwave, just to kind of like mix the heat through and see if we have any pieces that really need to be back in the microwave. Because if I just popped it in there like after one little stir, it would have looked like there was a bunch of stuff that still needed to melt down. But I'm only seeing maybe like one piece left. I think it melted. I'm not seeing any little pieces, which is what we're looking for. So we can start to coat our truffles. Let me get the ones out that I've already done. Okay, so here's our truffles that I rolled just a little bit ago. So they're a little bit sticky. I would have let them set for just a little bit longer, but we can carefully pop these into our melts and at least get a few of them done so you can see what they look like. Pop that in there. And then I'm just going to use a fork. Don't need any fancy tools. They do have chocolate dipping tools, but in my experience, this is one of like the better ones to use. So we tap off our excess, and then we're going to just kind of try and slide it off there. And like I said, these ones are kind of more rustic. If you want them like very perfect little spheres, then you'd want to use a mold or something like that. But just for something quick and easy, these are really just easy and fun to make. And then sometimes I like to even do a second coating if I want to touch it up, like make it look a little bit nicer, or if I want just like a thicker coating in general. If the mixture on the inside is, I made a fall one that was like pumpkin spice with decaf coffee infused, and it was very bitter from both of those things. So I did like a second coating to help balance out the inside a little bit more. Like I said, I just rolled these like maybe 10 minutes ago, so I usually would give them a little bit more time. And then this one you can tell is already set and back. And for this excess chocolate, I just kind of like give it a little roll on the parchment paper. You can see that that's still a little bit exposed. So what we could do is either re-dip the whole thing, or I'll just go and dip along the bottom. So two different ways to do it. Shake off some excess. I don't just want to scrape off too much there though, because we're trying to cover that little bit of ganache that was exposed. And then it ends up obviously matching, like being the same color. So of course it's not like perfectly coated all the way around. So that's what we could do with another one, like I said, is just kind of pop it straight in there and do a thicker coating. I'll do that with this one. Chocolate muffins. Anybody just joining? We're talking about our favorite holiday flavors as well. I definitely like a variety of things, but I am a peppermint girl. specifically peppermint dark chocolate. Is there anybody who's like specifically peppermint and like a particular like white chocolate or something? So that's our second coating on that one. And then this one's already set. You can see that one got pretty well coated, but I'm gonna do the just kind of partial dip on the bottom. Make sure all those little things, like the nooks and crannies, get covered. Shake off the excess because we don't want a ton of pooling. And then just set it down. Let's do a few more and then we can decorate. You can see I like to like kind of slide it a little bit. Just that helps also avoid the pooling where a ton of chocolate will be like clumped at the bottom. That's why I do that little kind of swoop. I definitely recommend popping these into the fridge and letting them set for a little bit longer. Don't do the freezer because if you leave it in the freezer for too long, then it'll set or it'll get like, you know, nice and solid on the inside. But then the temperature difference will make it'll make the chocolate crack when you actually coat it because of the temperature difference between the super cold filling and the warm outside. It'll make your chocolate crack. So make sure your temperature difference is not that drastic, and that's why we like to chill in the fridge. All right, so we did a few of those. Let's do some decorations. Put my truffle mixtures back in here. Okay, so we have a couple different things that we can do. I'll need to do these dippings first, though, because I can tell there's a little bit exposed on the bottom. Just like that. And then with this one, I think I'm going to coat the whole thing. It got exposed like on the side. Thanks, Matt. These are chocolate truffles, specifically peppermint mocha truffles. Oh, wants to stick. Okay, if this happens, I like to take a little stick tool and just kind of scrape it off. I'll need to check the bottom just to make sure none of the truffle mixture got exposed there, but sometimes that happens with the dipping. Okay, so now that we have our truffles fully coated and everything, we can do a combination of either, we could use a spoon, we could use a fork or something like that. I personally like to use a piping bag. So that's what I'm going to do our drizzling. But let's check and make sure we don't need to remelt this at all. I can feel it starting to set around the sides of the bowl. So I think I'm going to pop this in the microwave for like 10 seconds. Doesn't need very much time. Piping bag, and I'm going to make sure my sprinkles are open and ready to use because as soon as we do our drizzle, we want to make sure we're ready to go with our sprinkles. So I just very lightly heated it just to make sure that when we put it into our piping bag, it's not going to just set right away and I won't be able to use it at all. That's the main thing we're looking for here. Okay, I think it's a good consistency. Just going to pour it right into my piping bag. And we don't need a ton. We're only doing 6 truffles at the moment. I'll finish these off later, like I said. But we don't need too many or too much in our bag. Of course, keep getting truffle on my thumb. And we're going to cut off the tip of the piping bag. We want it fairly small so that it will not be like a super thick. Hold up. So it won't be like a super thick drizzle, but we also want it to be big enough where it's actually going to pipe. So I like to cut it and then do a little test. Where'd you go? There you are. That's all the scissors. I like to do a little test back into our bowl to see if it will pipe well enough. And then we can see if we need to cut it a little bit more. All right, I'm pretty happy with that. We can go and do our drizzle now. Bring it a little bit closer for you. All right, so we're going to just do drizzle, drizzle, drizzle right over the top. I'm gonna do like a couple and then I'm going to immediately sprinkle. I like a little bit of green with my red and white for peppermint. So something like that. And then test our drizzle again. And if you'll notice, I start off of our truffle and then I pipe over and end off of our truffle. So the truffle gets like the nice pretty stuff and then our parchment paper can just have the excess. I love drizzling because it's like a super duper easy way to decorate something, but it makes treats look so fancy. Okay, and then for these ones, we'll do a double drizzle just so you can see the difference. Just go perpendicular, just like that. Just like that. What do we think? Let's let that set just for a second, but it will set pretty quickly because the truffles were a little bit cold. And then I either just let this set in the piping bag and then take it out from the top when it's a complete little chunk that's fully set, or I just pipe it back into the bag while it's still melted, or back into the bowl from the bag, I should say. So, but yeah, that's basically super quick and easy truffles that are a really great addition to a little holiday plate or box or something like that. Compare them with your cookies. But also, I love to make treats for people for their actual like gifts and stuff and like customize them to people. So if you know someone that loves peppermint and especially peppermint mocha, then a nice little box of truffles are like, you know, a really good gift for sure. Just gonna keep piping this back in here. Does anybody have any questions? It's Friday afternoon. I feel like everybody's tired today. I definitely was feeling tired today. This week has been so busy. Takes a little while, but just gonna keep piping in here. Let's see. Any other questions or stuff? Make sure to pop them into the chat. This is a shorter live today, like I mentioned, just because it is like a no bake thing, and I had some stuff prepped ahead of time. But maybe next week we can either do a baking live, or I might be going live from, let's call it on location, from a different spot. So we'll have to see which one to do, or maybe I'll do both next week. You know, it's the holiday season. Maybe I'll do some extra lives. Um, but besides that, this week is today's the last day of Christmas cookie week for our holiday themed weeks. So make sure you check that out. Today is a sugar cookie, which I don't make super often, but I was really excited about these ones because I tried them out like couple years ago. I don't know, time's passing by weird. A couple of years ago, and they turned out really well. So I wanted to make like bigger versions of them because I made like itty bitty ones before. So make sure to check that out. We have next week is of course continuing our holiday themed week, so make sure to keep an eye out for those shorts videos. And I feel like that's everything. Like I said, I'll let you guys know what's going on with our lives. Might do a couple next week. I have some cookies I have to make, but also it would be fun to do a live not not in the kitchen. So we'll have to see. Okay, that's good enough. And then with the pieces that we have left in here, when we add back our melted chocolate, I like to reuse this bag when I'm continuing to use this. You don't have to just get a new one every single time you're going to add more melts. The warm melts will kind of remelt this a little bit, and you might have to like pipe a couple little chunks of harder chocolate out before it like flows consistently. But I'm always about like, you know, use this to the best of your ability before you have to get a new one. And if I can use it for the whole project, that's what I try and do. So, any other questions or comments to pop in the chat before we hop off for today? I guess I know this live is a little bit faster, but it has been a while since we've done a short live, so I guess it's nice to switch it up a little bit. We have had some pretty long lives recently. For all of our lovely like holiday prep, and I was baking cookies on Wednesday when we did our bonus live. So yeah, this week's been a little bit different with the schedule, and next week will be a little bit different. Hopefully the week after, but maybe just, you know, after the holidays is when we'll get back to more of a consistent schedule. But we'll have to see. I'm not seeing anything new in the chat, so I think that we're gonna hop off for today. Actually, I should pick up one of these so you can see them a little bit closer. So I like to do that too with our excess drizzle, is just kind of roll it around so it gets all that excess stuff off the bottom. And there's our truffles. So this is one of the double dip ones. You can see that it definitely is a little bit bigger. Not too much bigger though. And you can see how the drizzle comes off really, really easily off the sides. So you just have this really pretty truffle. Makes a cute little gift box or something like that. And of course, you can do any color of sprinkles. I recommend definitely if you add sprinkles as soon as you do the dipping and you don't want to do a drizzle, add nonpareils because those are like those little teeny tiny ball sprinkles. Those ones stand out better because if you do that with like this type of sprinkle, it'll kind of seep into it a little bit and it kind of gets a little bit hidden. So that's why I like to do the glittery sugar sprinkles with the drizzle because it will stand out a little bit better. But non-pearls you can use for either one. Those are my top favorite sprinkles to use for either type of project. So yummy. Yes, very excited with how these are turning out. And I'm excited to try one of them later because it's been a while since I've made truffles like this. So I know I'm excited. I'm excited to also give them to people and see the reaction. That's always like one of the best payoffs of making stuff is getting to surprise people and seeing how much they like it. So let's see. I think that's all of our updates. I'm not seeing any new stuff pop in the chat. So I think we're gonna call it a day for today. But I hope to see you guys next week, like I said, for all of the fun short stuff for our holiday series, as well as more lives. And I will definitely update you guys when I kind of figure all that stuff out. But I hope you guys have a really, really great rest of your day and a fabulous weekend. And I will see you very soon. Bye.